Hi, everyone. Mark Johnston here. With the last several videos, we've talked about hope and romance. We've talked about communication and that sense of spark. But I'm guessing that some of you might still be questioning things. You might be asking yourself, okay, how could this really get any worse? Many of our past clients ask the same question that you're asking yourself right now. How could this get any worse? Could this possibly turn around at all? Or can I even come out the other end, even emotionally intact at all? Or survive this at all? Well, you're not alone on that worry. Thousands of individuals have come to us with the exact same worries, wondering whether their marriage could be saved, wondering whether they could even manage to get to a point where they can actually talk to their spouse again. Yeah, I know a lot of people have problems with even that simple step of being able to communicate and figure out what's going on. Well, with those thousands of people who have come to us with those worries, we've also helped thousands of people meet their goals and save their marriage. Now, I have a couple examples that I actually want to share with you. Now, I always change the names, of course, to protect people. We're going to talk about Matt and Craig. So Matt's wife, Claire, claimed that he had emotionally abused and neglected her as he had focused on his career. I mean, you hear words like that, and it's just gut-wrenching, as Matt was really confused. He didn't feel like he had been abusive. If at the worst of it, he felt like maybe he had focused too much on his career, but that abuse really stung. She claimed that he was controlling and manipulative, that he was hardly present as a father, and that he obviously didn't care about her or their children, which was odd because he worked really hard to to provide for his family because he cared about them and felt like, okay, things had really gone far if his wife was using words like that. I mean, he'd worked really hard, didn't realize the extent of Claire's pain up until recently because he had been so focused on his career. For months, Matt made adjustments to his schedule, tried to be more present as a father. He tried to support his wife and listen to her, only to be met with skepticism or contempt. Now, he came to us not even knowing what to do, and having no idea which direction to go in. And through our program, learned a lot of great skills in how to help his wife feel heard, feel validated, and make some changes. And after nearly a year of working on himself, the last court date was set to finalize the divorce, with little change in how his wife described him or their relationship. So things seemed pretty dire. He said, I made all these changes. Why? Why didn't this work? In the end, Claire realized, though, that she had made many mistakes herself, and the two decided to move back in together and reconcile. Now, this whole situation took over a year and a half to resolve. He said most of the progress was made after he started working with us, and a lot of the where the success was attributed to was how Matt was consistent, how he still cared about her even though she was not treating him well, which I'm going to just put it aside. I don't generally recommend things like that all the time. There's room for respect and boundaries, but it was his consistency in a lot of the skills that he learned from us to take it from accusations that he's controlling and manipulative to admitting fault and wanting to reconcile. And so even though it seemed hopeless, just pushing a little bit further allowed him to have the marriage that he wanted. Craig, on the other hand, Craig's wife Susan left suddenly one day with no notice. I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you. I know I've seen many people who've had a similar experience. And when Craig tried to reach out to his wife to ask about what had happened, he was met with requests not to speak to her and plans for divorce because of, once again, many wild accusations. Craig was confused because many of the accusations also seemed extreme, didn't seem accurate. So we worked with Craig to work towards some better communication with his wife, Susan. Craig was able to find out from his wife what was going wrong, to open up communication. And they gained a lot of more comfort around each other. Now, Craig was the kind of person that really wanted things to work and was giving in on a lot of areas. But one of the things that he did not want to give in on was custody. And so, we talked to Craig about how to set those boundaries, how to draw those lines and still be supportive and loving and caring. And when he needed to set those boundaries and push for his custody for his children, the court actually found that many of the accusations that his wife were put out were just plain false. And it forced Susan to reconsider and question her story. And more recently, they're now reconsidering their options and are much closer to working things out because Craig learned skills about how to react to things like this, how to help his wife feel understood, and how to stand up for himself and set boundaries through the program. What I'm getting at here is that both of these cases had to go to some extreme lengths before they turned around. At the same time, they needed a lot of preparation. They needed a lot of work ahead of those moments when, someone is much more likely to reconsider their options. And without that preparation ahead of time, those moments would have come and gone and probably nothing would have happened. It would have kept going. Now, I'm wondering here if Matt or Craig's example sounded all familiar. Are you just not sure where some of the accusations are coming from? Or are you saying, many of the complaints that are coming up are completely legitimate and your husband or wife, maybe they do have some legitimate concerns? Whatever the case may be, I'm not going to pretend that all cases are like Craig and Matt's, where there's, problems of misunderstandings. I'm not going to pretend that problems are simple within a marriage. In most every case, there is a lot of work to be done and changes to be made. And both Matt and Craig had to look at themselves and how they were approaching their marriage. They had to do a lot of work. Like I said, that prep work ahead of those moments where people could make a different decision. And whether it is misunderstandings like this or whether the problems are real, if you do the prep work, if you ahead of time and you have, and you come to these moments of decisions, you're going to be in a much better position to have your marriage turn around. Both Matt and Craig worked hard and saw results. Both had very little hope for their marriage at the beginning. Now, my motto is simple, that there's always something that can be done to improve one's circumstances. If your spouse isn't speaking with you, there are things that can be done to ease that tension and get some communication flowing. That's honestly, that's one of the few things that I can almost 100% guarantee. We can make a lot of improvements there. If your spouse is telling you that there's nothing that can be done, the marriage is over. There are ways to build up some foundations of a relationship to help give you a chance. If your spouse won't cooperate with you at all, well, it certainly makes things harder, but many of our methods don't require complete cooperation anyway. If you are determined, if you are willing to look inward at yourself, if you can approach this with a level head, and if you can take feedback, then we can help you. Even if you're not, even if you have a hard time looking inward, even if you are really emotional and you're having a hard time approaching it with a level head, well, we can help you with those things too. My point is, you know, if your marriage is important to you, then then your marriage deserves a chance here. Many other people would take many of these circumstances and say there's nothing that can be done. And I just don't like to accept that answer. And which is why I've studied for years focusing on this one problem, the marriage in crisis. So if you need help, I would love to be there for you. I would love to talk with you personally. If you want to just check out if our program is right for you, please give us a call. You can go and talk with one of my team members to just check to see if this is a good fit. You can go to www.highthrivecoaching.com/apply. We get an appointment as soon as you can, because if you wait around, you might miss those opportunities where a decision could be made. A choice for something different could happen. So let's get started on this right away. Love to see you in the program. Talk to you soon.